guys! Day 10 of NaNoWriMo Tarot is upon us. And day 10 is another fairly short day as far as the video goes. It is one of the longer days as far as you working through the exercise and, you know, doing the writing and outlining and everything. Real quick, before we go any further, you know the spiel. You guys go over to Facebook and join the Divination Guild group on Facebook. And, you know, while you're at it, if you feel so called, follow me on Instagram and Facebook at East of the Moon Tarot. Subscribe, comment, upvote these videos if you can. All that good stuff. So, okay, day 10 is, it's called 10 cards for 10 chapters, and that's part of why this video is going to be so short, is because there's not like a spread that we're working through. There's not a lot here for me to dissect and explain to you. Basically, NaNoWriMo is, the goal is to write 50,000 words towards your story in 1 month. You have 30 days to write 50,000 words. Now, when you break it down, that comes to about 1,600 words per day, which is not, it's not terrible when you look at the daily word count. What gets terrible is when you are doing 300 or 500 words a day, or you skip days or miss days, and you know, you start to go into that debt and you start hyperventilating and freaking out. But it's also sometimes difficult because, you know, you don't know what to write or what to say, or, you know, stories are not always, sorry, I dropped a bunch of cards. Stories are not always linear. You know, they have a lot of things that help us flesh them out, a lot of stuff that isn't necessary to the main story arc, that just gives it a little more oomph, that gives it a little more power, a little more interest and appeal. That's all of the supporting narrative, the supporting characters, the walking around bits, as my writing group likes to call them. Anyway, so the average novel has 10 chapters to it. And that's why, you know, I was like, okay, 10 cards, 10 chapters. And now, obviously, you don't have to limit yourself to 10 chapters. You don't have to do chapters. You know, you can do more, less, whatever. So, given that, about every 3 or so days during Nano, you'll be completing a chapter. You might want to think about, like, day 10 today as being an exercise in when I need filler or I need something extra to put towards my story. I need plot twists. I need something else. That's what this is for. Now today I decided, even though my series is called NaNoWriMo Tarot, I decided to work with the Raven's Wand Oracle by Stephen Hutton. It's a really pretty deck. The cards are really interesting. They've got really cool keywords. If you wanted to use an oracle deck for this exercise, I feel like it would probably be really appropriate. Maybe it'll even help you name the chapters. But yeah, I have a one of my favorite authors is Diana Wynne Jones. She's most well known for for her young readers books that she's written, but she did a series of young readers books. The very first one was called Dealing with Dragons, and I really loved how her chapters were done. They would always say something like, in which the princess makes Cherry's Jubilee, or something of that nature. Like, it would kind of be spoilery but not really spoilery, and it would just give you a very, very brief, like, one sentence synopsis of what the chapter was about. So I'm not going to pull all 10 cards for all 10 of my chapters right now. I'm going to do what I did back on day 7 or day 8 or whatever it was, and just pull like 3 cards to go through with you guys, just to give you some examples. And then I'm going to release you back into the wild to attempt to craft a story on your very own. Yeah, so treat this as like miniature stories within your bigger story. You want these narratives to fit within the overall narrative that you're working on. Go ahead and shuffle your deck. Draw 10 cards. The part that I feel like is the key to making this exercise work, period, is once you draw those cards, treat it like a jigsaw puzzle and move them around until they make sense. The cards are not necessarily going to come out in a great order for working your story arc. So get crafty with it, like play, move stuff around until you can start to see the flow of your story reflected in the cards, and draw a narrative from that. Yeah, so without further ado, ooh, very first card for me, spread your wings. My chick's a pilot. I feel like this is a very fortuitous card for her. You know, she's about to take flight. Actually, I love that it's a giant seagull on this card, and this badass, like, warrior woman is about to climb aboard her giant fucking seagull. I'll read the book later. If you don't know about this deck yet, like, Stephen Hutton kind of created his own little world, and so all of the characters in the deck are characters in the story. They all have their own stories and stuff. So I'm going to go and read these stories later when I get done. Okay. Next chapter. Black Wand's Redemption. Okay, so we're going to have a redemptive story somewhere in here at some point. I do remember pulling some cards earlier when I was working on a previous episode that had to do with betrayal. I pulled the 7 of Swords. Had to do with, like, thievery and betrayal. So maybe the person that initially betrays my heroine will come back and redeem themselves later in the story. We'll find out. All right, card number 3. Strength Renewed. So to me, this is probably going to fit in more with kind of the final battle. You know, maybe it's that moment where you think that the good guy's going to lose, like they're down for the count, there's no way they can possibly win, and then they just get that last little burst that allows them to punch through and succeed where they really shouldn't have. Yeah. Or it could be regarding, you know, she is going to have to find safe haven at some point during her story. So this could fit into that chapter. And as I look at each of these, I like to examine the characters, like where they are, what they're doing, what their expressions are like, what they look like, all of those things to give me just more stuff that I can draw from. I don't have to use everything that I observe on every card, and I don't have to use it verbatim. I'm doing all of this very intuitively, not necessarily like planned by any kind of like tarot rules or anything. I'm coloring outside the lines here, guys, and I invite you to do the same. So choose a deck, any deck, and you know, craft some chapters, work with your cards, make some plot points inspired by each card, rearrange them, give yourself a story arc and a narrative line to follow. All of these exercises throughout this NaNoWriMo Tarot process, they're just meant to make NaNoWriMo easier for you as a writer. You know, it's just to make your life easier when you feel like you're stuck or you've lost the thread of your story or you don't know where to go or what to do next. So I hope that you have found this helpful, and I will see you on day 11.